Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to debut Sensation from 2010. So, I would basically call Sensation 2010 an Irish risky business. I would go on and I would call Sensation to really be a movie that kind of reminds me of the Dennis Hoffman movie, uh, The Graduate, where within that film, like the goofiest thing about it is we have kind of Dustin who's very like robotic and his eyes are very wide. And like the whole time he's just doing these performances and it's so robotic and weird and strange. And I don't know why that is. Like, I guess that could just be that actor just trying to get through these performances. I don't know what that is. Um, but either way, it's just so strange and off putting that I just laugh my way through it. It's so weird. So, Sensation like could also be like matched to stuff like the Michael Keaton Night Shift movie, The Girl Next Door. Take your pick of the adult flavoring of movies. I'm sure you could probably find a good assortment of those. If you can find a movie that is to be really very much matched to this, let me know in the comments below, because maybe I'll seek it out in the future. Or maybe if you just really like risky business, maybe I'll go on and I'll cover that too. Sensation is the movie that I weirdly like it because of its story, and people are just like, well, we all know why we're really here. In all honesty, I don't think there is enough, obviously, certain kind of scenes in this movie, but also, to me, it doesn't honestly matter. I like the story of this film. So, yeah, story. Donald in this movie is to kind of be a doormat of a person that really is to kind of just be walked on. We could obviously see that through his best friend. But Donald, when he is to go on and talk about his father, it doesn't really seem that there's much of a takeaway from that. So that kind of tells me a lot. Donald is to kind of also, when he has this whole funeral thing going on, like it seems that he's also kind of disconnected from his family. So Donald inevitably goes on to need to seek something somewhere, as Donald was to be comforted by this random stranger cashier girl that he goes on and finds fascinating because he had been so nice to him, that when he goes on and sees her at some point later on in the film, he's just like, oh yeah, that was a girl that was nice to me. And there is just some kind of weird kind of like, man, I want to kind of get with that girl, but also like I have this other thing going on, which he's not quite sure about. And inevitably by the end of the film, there is a much more sure of what this really is. So Donald goes on and seeks out this chat room, which leads him to meet up with this girl known as Courtney, or Kim, is to be her real name. So Donald goes on, as he is to be dubbed Sweet Robert, let's just say, and meet up with Courtney. And Courtney just continues to see that Donald is kind of treating her differently than probably a number of other people that treated her before. Going on of like, hey, how about we actually have dinner? When he goes on and when he meets up with her later on and her place is disheveled, he used to go on and be like, well, hey, like, do you need a place to stay? Like, I'm willing to help you out. And Kim is like, oh, well, that's actually really nice. And she takes him up on that offer. And so, as it seems that the both of them continue to just be nice with one another, there is still also like, okay, when is it that like the tide is going to turn here? When is it that the one person is going to use the other? Like, when is even in the court where there could have been a good chance for somebody to just kind of roll on somebody, that it doesn't happen? And by the end of it, we can really know by the end of this movie where this relationship really is to cement that they do care for one another. But anyways, so that they even are to kind of tease that they're going to kiss by the end of this, which is really nice. But so Donald seeks out Kim, and Kim keeps talking about how she wants to leave her agency to go on her own. That she feels that she has all this set up that could go on and kind of be a good way of kind of leading into her retirement. So Donald then goes on to say it's like, well, hey, like I have this farm, like you can kind of set this whole thing up here, and we can kind of just piecemeal and kind of figure this together. We can go on and have Carl, Donald's best friend, who, in all honesty, there's this scene in this movie that I think could be, in my mind, the biggest comedy moment that just popped into my brain noggin. Because there is at one point where Kim is going to get plastic surgery to get her chest done, let's just say, and Carl is there to greet her, and you could just tell that Kim is just like, oh god, this guy. And Carl should have just been like, oh hey Kim, it's me Carl, you know the guy you don't like? I'm over here. Yeah, like come on, like I'm here to pick you up. Yeah, you know the guy you don't like? I'm here to help you. I'm here to pick you up. Hey, over here. Anyways, so that's what just kind of popped in there. So we have Donald where there's some kind of dissension in the ranks, as Kim one night is just to go on and kind of be kind of worn out by all the loving of which that she had given to other people, let's just say. And Donald is asking, but where's my loving? And Kim is like, yeah, you're going to have to kind of go without tonight. And Donald is like, well, like, so is this a relationship or is it not a relationship? I'm just going to go on and I'm just going to find a cashier girl and see where that's going to head. And forget about Kim, because maybe this is a whole business transaction to her. I'm not quite sure yet. So Donald goes on and seeks out the arms of another woman, or maybe the legs of another woman. I'm not quite sure. Either way, he had seeked out another woman, and eventually that ends up kind of playing out poorly. But either way, Kim is to go on and do her procedure to kind of lift up her ladies, or adjust her ladies. So Kim needs Donald, and he's not there for her. And Kim was to go on to be so upset, and then she turns around and is to have Carl there picking her up. So Kim is going on and asking Carl, it's like, well, where's Donald? What is he doing? Why are you being so secretive? Why aren't you going to tell me? What do I need to do to get this answer, Carl? And so further and further builds to whatever Carl is manipulatingly wanting out of Kim, and it seems that he will get. And then things blow up. Donald is to go on and be like, you slut, you there. And at this point, Donald is like, okay, like, this is over. Like, this is done. Like, you can go on, you can have your own agency, but I'm going to go on, I'm going to take these girls, and we'll just leave. But then there is the finding out via the authorities and the Liam guy that was to try and sell Donald's land what is really going on, because he also seems to own this hotel that they're kind of doing this business in. And we turn around and now have Donald, who's in these courts, and he could have really thrown uh, Kim under the bus. Kim could have done the same, but neither one of them did. And this ends up, by the end of it all, kind of telling the two of them, like, kind of where they're at. Where it's like, well, hey, like, he could have gone on and completely thrown me under the bus, but he didn't. Like, he was very honest. And we don't really know what exactly Donald himself said in the court. So, because they kind of cut to him getting on the stand, and then it's like, and it's like, God dang it. Like, there's some parts of this movie that I have liked to have fully committed to instead of cutting away from. And that's what kind of ticks me off in this movie, because again, I was so just into the story. Strangely enough for this kind of film, but still. So we find that Donald is now forced in prison to hopefully not find that somebody's going to make him his puppet. And Donald then goes on to find that Kim is there by his side to be like, well, hey, like, since it seems that we really are going to have this relationship between the two of us, like, shouldn't we kiss right now? Wouldn't it make sense? And it's like, that's like a really nice ending that I really like. So regardless of who these people are, regardless of uh, just how exactly all this story turns out, like, it's nice that it feels like there's this kind of happy ending, somewhat. Even though, of course, Donald is probably in prison having somebody make him his puppet. But regardless, I did enjoy this story. At the end of the day, hopefully you'll find a way to check this out on Tubi. If it's not available on Tubi, I'll probably figure out a way you can watch this on some bootleggish app somewhere at some point in the off distance time of which you're to go on and probably have subscribed and hung onto this channel for some absurd reason, because at some point you'll probably find some movie somewhere that I'll probably go on and do that you'll probably actually like. Or show? Maybe a show, I don't know. But anyways, but right now, I've made a lot of poor decisions. I'll be honest. Um, right now, I'm just like, I'm not in a good place. Uh, my body's definitely not in a good place. But I'm kind of just not really in a good place right now. And like, really, when I go into doing these projects, I'm just like, whatever I can just put out right now is just whatever I can put out. I'm just trying to just be like, let's figure out what can kind of just keep me going at this point. Um, but if anything, like, I will hope that soon I will have some kind of turnaround. At some point, I'll get to like a resetting point, and hopefully that comes soon. So hope for the best for that. And when I say I'm not at a good place, like, I'm just very just kind of depressed. Uh, stress eating is definitely happening. Um, I'm gone on to a point where it's like I should be working out and I'm not. I should be doing more videos when I'm not working out, but I'm not. I'm just kind of really uh, just at a point where I'm just kind of just like, I should be doing something, but I'm not. Um, Tomorrow I have like a whole like interview thing that I have kind of going on tomorrow, so I just kind of gear up for that to see where that goes. It's very cryptic, I realize, but it's not like a normal job interview. It's all about me, I think, going on and just kind of getting um, accepted into doing this whole kind of caregiver thing. So that'll happen hopefully tomorrow. I don't know what's really going on. Other than that, yeah, off the way we go to just the scene for scene, blow for blow of this movie, and getting into more details of that. I'm sure a lot of people probably clicked off even well before that, or have not really have much interest in this movie if you were to go on to even find it. But either way, I hope for the best if anybody is to go on and to have watched this. I hope you have a good day. I hope you go on and you find some kind of piece of content within this channel that is actually really interesting, or it helps you out because, or for some reason you're just consistently deciding to just hang on to this channel because eventually I may go on and finally give you what you want. Which that's understandable. I get it. But anyways, let's go on and let's get to the scene for scene, blow for blow, because you know it's about that time to get into spoil time. Spoil time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below what would be your favorite kind of risky business kind of films, if you know what I mean. I know that there was probably another movie I think at some point that came out called Escort. I know that there was another movie that at some point came out that was like 2050 or something like that, where it's like there is this robotic girl that ended up meeting with this guy, and like there's a whole movie about that at some point. There's a kind of a like there's like the movie Zipper that I'd reviewed on this channel that seems is consistently building or doing well. I don't know why, but it is. Because these kind of titles are very obscure, but inevitably it's great that people are continuing to find these things. I don't know what this is going to really mean for if this channel is ultimately going to get monetized or do well or anything. But at least I'll go on and I'll just have a lot of content that is just put on this thing at some point, and eventually it probably won't go anywhere. But either way, at least I'll just, in my mind, have gotten to say all these things and talk about all these projects and feel good somehow or another about me accomplishing something in my life. So with that said, let's go on. Let's pause this here because I think it's about that time to get into the scene for scene, blow for blow. Because you know, I think it's about that time to pause for the cause and go on and rattle off this entire movie. All right, so at the beginning of this film, we come to find that Donald, Donald, will go on to be opening up this gate for these sheep. Blah, blah, blah. So Donald goes on and is to inevitably within this field go off to the side and have his bit of adult magazine where he obviously goes onto this field and does a little beef jerkin. So, or beef stroganoff, whatever is to be your taste of flavor. As Donald makes his way back in the house, it seems that there's a good assortment of cats, which there's one scene in this movie where I'm not sure if I should be horrified by, or I just don't quite understand what this scene exactly is going on here. There's at one point where Donald has his bucket and has these kittens within it. And should I be naturally assuming that he's just bathing these cats? Or if he's doing something worse with them, and I am to just be, in my mind, so like, man, this movie gets dark at some effing points. But either way, I'm just being honest about the play out of this film. So Donald is to call for his dad, who does not answer. The dad is to be at the home, so it's kind of a strange affair that this guy is not answering him. So Donald starts to make his way through the house, makes his way to the stairwell, and finds his dad on this chairlift. I'm like, oh, yeah, we come to find that his father's skin is very gray. Donald goes on and kind of lifts his dad off the chairlift, goes on to take his necklace, and finds this little kind of secret cupboard of this kind of money and all this stuff. I guess if he knew, Donald knew that something was going to happen to his dad, so he had this whole secret thing. Plus, also, like, Donald was kind of saving up money because of his friend that would go on and kind of keep stealing from him. What a douche. Sorry, Carl. You know, Carl, the guy you don't like. Carl! Me, that guy. You don't like. Anyways, so we now cut to Donald, and he's in this car. He makes his way to this funeral, and he turns to his best friend Carl, and Carl's like, well, yeah, I was parking the car, I was late, I was this, I was that. He has so many excuses. It's like, man, like, you can't be here for me, like, you have to show up late, like, you like did I seriously have to go on and set your alarm clock for you? Like, come on. Because we find out that Donald and Carl, like, they live in the same freaking place. Carl is living in uh in Donald's barn. Like, he basically lives within his farm. He has his own, like, RV. He's off the side somewhere, and like, Carl is like, even he couldn't be bothered to get to the funeral on time. So next up, we see Rosemary, who's to be a person that is to kind of make this whole speech, and then goes on and has another family member kind of break in and says, like, well, yeah, like, it seems kind of traditional in these kind of situations to sing a song. And so she just starts singing, and Donald and Carl kind of turn to one another, and like, they talk about how this song should be a gift, and they're like, well, yeah, maybe she should return that gift. Hopefully she kept the receipt. So that way they can have a bit of a joking here. So both Donald and Carl, they make their way out, and there's whole questions like, well, shouldn't you have probably said something at the funeral? Shouldn't you have gone on and had a story about your dad? And Donald's like, well, yeah, I don't really have much takeaway from my dad. Like, I don't really have much, like, of a story besides there was, like, one time. And he starts running off this story, and all of a sudden, a guy named Liam interrupts it. Liam is to go on and meet up with Donald just so that way he can get his effing land. This guy doesn't care about Donald whatsoever. He's just trying to get something out of him, because of course he is. So Liam talks to Donald, is like, hey, yeah, you and me, we can talk about this whole land situation. It's like, his father just died. Give him a freaking break. But that's also kind of like those whole robocalls that, like, as soon as they find out you have, like, home trouble or car trouble or something like that, like, they're calling you just non-stop and like, hey, you want to sell your house? You want to do this? You want to do that? Like, no, how about you leave me the F alone and stop calling me? And no matter how many times you block them, there's still just going to be another call coming anyways. But moving on. So Donald goes on and is to overhear his family members start to make fun of him mention how it's like, well, yeah, I'm sure he's not eating properly, and why didn't he get himself a girlfriend and blah blah blah. So like, if anything, Donald's like, man, it's great that like my dad just died. I'm listening from these other family members that I didn't get my life together. Like, F all these people. Like, so follow that up with Donnell, Donnell, Donald, going on and meeting up with Carl, and they start talking about, oh yeah, about that guy who would just start to talk about selling the land. Like, maybe it's a really good idea. Like, maybe it'll be better off for you if you just sell the land to this guy and then you just kind of move on. Because if anything, you can kind of just get your life together. Basically, is what Carl is kind of saying in a nutshell. And maybe this is going to be a way for Carl to start all over and do something that he really wanted to do with his life. So now we cut to Donald. After all that fun and funeral and what have you, Donald makes his way to the retail store, the grocery store, and buys a couple things. And we have this cashier that's going on and asking about a bonus card, because of course we have to have a freaking card for everything now. And the guy's like, well, no, don't have the card. So this register woman goes on and looks at Donald's like, hey, don't look so glim. And Donald's like, I'm sorry. And the girl's like, well, yeah, it looks like you just went to a funeral. And he's like, I just did. And she's like, oh? And he's like, yeah, my dad just died. And she's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I really put my foot in my mouth. I'm sorry. And so she starts to kind of comfort the guy. She goes on and gives him free chocolate, as if that really matters. But at least it's nice that she kind of takes him by the shoulders and tries to comfort him at this point in time of which that he needs it. So it's really nice. So Donald goes on and he leaves. And here is where, since this girl had spent the time to comfort him, he is to just be like, well, hey, how would I go on and how would I go through a chat room and I try to find if there's a way for me to go on and basically find out if there is an escort service that is to seemingly be within this vicinity of area that I could seek out, so this guy can finally get some effing loving. So, Donald seeks out this guy named Mac Daddy, and also Donald's to go by Sweet Robert, let's just say, because a bit of a nickname here. So it's sweet Johnson, if you know what I mean. Anyway, whatever. So Donald goes on and gets his phone number and calls Courtney, and they end up arranging this whole meet together. And Donald's like, well, yeah, like someone referenced me, Mac Daddy. So he explains where he lives to her, but she's like, well, hey, I want to go on. I want to meet somewhere first at public. And he's like, okay, we can go on and we can meet at this restaurant. So it's like, okay, so we follow this up by Donald, who's looking at the website and seeing a picture of this girl. And the kind of pictures are honestly kind of blurry. I know that's a horrible thing to say, but it's true. So you don't really know if it's really this girl or not. Honestly, when they go on and they click on the pictures, yeah, like the faces are kind of blurry, so you don't really know if it's this girl. they could have gone on and got random pictures, so you don't really know if it's this girl or not. So after that, since Donald has now made this appointment, he now wants a release, and so he goes on and finds a adult video. Has another good old sesh of some beef stroganoff. So just he just loves that meal, just having a good old time with that stroking. So beef stroganoff, I mean. Anyways, so Donald makes his way to this uh, billiard bar. He goes to the bar to play pool, let's just say. So both him and Carl are going on and talking, and Carl's asking him whether or not they want to go somewhere. And I think also uh, Donald had to kind of flip the bill for the two of them being here. But anyways, so Donald says that he's going on and he's going to be busy, so he can't meet up with Carl and he has to leave soon. And with the exchange between the two of them, like Donald's like, well, yeah, and I won't be alone, and then he kind of leaves. So and here's where they go on, and so within this exchange here, Donald asks Carl where he can go on and how he can sell his livestock because he wants to kind of um, get rid of these animals. So they talk about Mossy, so because Donald is going to go on and use this money from selling this livestock to uh to get Kim her money because it's going to be like 450 some odd dollars. I'm like, man, I'm hoping that livestock uh is to be a pretty good penny. So, because we'll find out that when they do sell the livestock, it's going to be $18,439 roughly, and then 650 specifically for the ram, and then they just kind of haggle for it. So here's a kitten scene that I've already talked about, and it's freaking weird. So let's move on. So we have to at some point see also that that Donald's in the shower. I think they kind of reuse this footage more than once somewhere. Like they have the same scene, but they kind of split it up into other things to think, oh yeah, he's showering at different times. But he's probably just be showering and he's kind of doing different things at different times. And then they kind of splice it in somewhere in the movie to say that he's been showering in multiple different situations. Because honestly, like, it doesn't look drastically different enough to where, like, it doesn't seem like he's, like, to have a completely different shower scene kind of done here. It's just kind of weird. Anyways, so Donald makes his way to this restaurante where he speaks with this waitress. So he orders some stuff and Kim comes in and Kim ends up saying like, sweet Robert, sweet insert inappropriate name here, and Donald is to agree to this. So Kim sits down, and so Donald is to have ordered Kim the soup, and like says like it's like, yeah, it's carrots in this, and she's like, we don't actually have to eat food. And Donald's like, well, I'm kind of hungry. And Kim is like, oh, okay. So they just kind of sit down and they actually have a meal. And so afterwards, once they leave this restaurante, uh, Kim goes on and asks like what they could start with. Um, and ask like how experienced this kid is, and Kim can kind of tell because she's very much a veteran to this whole thing. So I thought it was kind of interesting when Kim goes on and explains how she was to have gone on and first started doing this whole business thing. She goes on and she at some point in this movie talks about how she meets this couple, and like one thing led to another, and Kim was to eventually, after the whole experience, decide like, well, hey, how about I get into this kind of business? Because I think what happened was is that she met this couple, and like they thought that she was a escort. So the wife, I think, brought her home to her husband, and so she was like, oh, like no, I'm not that kind of woman. And so inevitably she turned around and she actually just became one of these people, which is like, okay, that's interesting. So maybe not the story was all that interesting, but still. uh Kim goes on to also say at some point when she's talking to this one girl that when she was to be involved in one of these agencies, that the guy that auditioned her cast couch uh couch couch casted her was to basically want a free go, um to see if she was experienced. And like, yeah, that's kind of freaking weird. But I guess if anything, uh there are times where you really can't exactly trust whether or not that these people to be real or just kind of want this uh certain thing out of you, or any number of things to just kind of like, is this sure a real thing, or is this to just kind of be um this scam of sorts? Anyways, so kind of like in modern time, how like when you're thinking that like a dating site, or when you're thinking you're meeting somebody on a social media somewhere, yeah, you're not really quite sure if the people are real or not. That's kind of how like AIs and all these kind of things are just so good now. As well as also, you're trying to find out like if this person is real. The more you talk to them, it's like, I don't know about this conversation. Like, I don't know if they're real or not. So eventually you back away. Anyways, so back to the story here. So Kim goes on, makes her way to Donald's room, and starts taking her clothes off, and starts like doing more of like a strip tease, kind of a lap dance. And Kim starts to ask Donald if he's turned on by this, and so Donald tells her to get on her knees. She goes on and she gets uh, the rubber and she puts it in her mouth, and herein starts the BJ. We're thinking that this is going to lead to something else, but then all of a sudden it seems that Donald is to be so hard up that he starts to go on and starting to get to to the 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 high point, let's just say, of his ecstasy. And like every time I have to go on and figure out some way to just kind of cleverly talk about these scenes, because of course I can't just blurt things out, no, can I? Anyways, so shortly thereafter that, um, Donald goes on and is to kind of um, clean Kim's clothes, and so they start talking. Uh, we have Donald here that starts to talk to Kim about like what she did, what she had done besides this, and she had talked about interior designing and all these other kind of weird, odd jobs and things of that nature. And Donald asks her, it's like, well, hey, how long do you think that you're going to keep doing this kind of job? And she's like, well, probably another 6 months or so. And she's talking about getting into management. He's like, oh, management? What do you mean by that? So she says that she wants to go on and run her own agency, and that's where the real money is. And so after the two of them have this talk, and Kim eventually leaves, uh, Donald goes on and is to call Carl. And Donald asks Carl, it's like, hey, can we go out somewhere? And Carl's like, well, hey, I don't have money on me. Of course you don't, Carl. So Donald's like, well, yeah, I'm willing to, I'm willing to pay if we can just go. So Donald all of a sudden starts talking to Carl about this weird adult dream that he is to go on and have. And I'm not sure if it was a dream or if it was just something that he was just thinking about while being with this girl. I have no idea where this line of dialogue just goes. It's so weird. But at least finally Donald was kind of willing to open up to effing somebody at least. So that's really nice. So here's where all of a sudden Donald goes on and sees that girl that was nice to her. I believe her name is Melanie. And Melanie was to have been the cash register girl by that retail store. And Carl looks at Melanie and it's like, oh, so are you gonna talk to her? And Donald's like, no. So Carl just takes it upon himself to just start talking to this girl that obviously Donald likes, because of course that's what Carl does. Of course, fucking douche. Anyways, Carl speaks to Melanie, and it's like, oh yeah, hey yeah, like I think I'd seen you before, right? Like we know one another. And like, what school did you go to? Oh yeah, I know girls like you from that school. Kind of going on and saying something, figuring out a way to like open up to this girl and be like, oh yeah, I know girls like you. So the conversation between Carl and Melanie is going so good that Carl is bringing beers over to this table, and then Donald is to eventually join that table or is to kind of stand nearby that table as Carl continues to talk to all these girls. Donald starts meeting up with all these girls that are around Melanie. They start talking. And eventually Donald is to mention, like, oh yeah, Melanie, we met at some point. And she's like, I don't remember you. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm sure you get customers in your store all the time. Like, I was the guy that you had consoled when I told you that my dad died. And it's like, yeah, what a way to kill a room, Donald. Yeah. What a way to kill a room. Everybody's just trying to get buzzed and effed up and what have you. But you're just going on and you're just talking about your dead dad again. Yeah, nice job, Donald. No, Lisa's being honest, because, yeah, like, she's really not going to remember him. She won't. So Melanie's like, oh, yeah, dead guy, yeah. Like, it's basically what she should have just said. So when Donald and when Carl leave this place, Carl basically brings up how Donald kind of kills the mood. He was like Buzz Killington. So the two of them go to this place they can eat this meal, and Donald is talking about like the future of what he wants to do. That he wants to be a part of computers. Like he wants to go on and create a website or kind of do this computer program thing. So like he's adamant about at least doing that. So he also goes on and says this one line of like, you ever feel like you're gonna burst? Is that like that whole Aaron from Mario Maker line where he's like, I'm a gigolo, I'm ready to burst? And then at some point later, he calls Bowser a freak, and it's awesome. You're a freak, Bowser. You're a freak. And like, oh my god, Mario Maker Game Grumps. Oh my god, is that hilarious? Yeah, there's sometimes where there's so like, just like, oh my god, this is my life, and Mario Maker sucks, and blah, blah, blah. But there's also a lot of times where there's actually a lot of fun dialogue between the two of them, like when Aaron is to kind of be so awkward during uh parties where he's like the only thing that he can think to say is like, hey, nice coat. It's like, and that's where I got that from. um and like if there's a new Star Wars movie out there, they could talk about that, like, and then Aaron is like, I don't know what else to say. But it's kind of funny, like a lot of people could probably have like, there's a lot of people that talk for a living, but like when you're to kind of be forced to talk in a situation, it just is to like not really want to come out, or you're just like, dude, like I talk all the time. Like if anything, like when I'm outside of this, like I don't want to go on and I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I just want to go on and just be like, how's it going? Like I just want these kind of brief conversations, um, because of just how much I spent X number of hours already talking, doing these projects. So yeah, like I can understand where they're coming from. Back to the movie. So here is where Donald meets up with Liam, and Donald is coming in there with him possibly selling his land, and he's like, well, hey, how about I go on and how about we work together? We can work on this scheme together. Uh, like I can help you out. Like I feel that I could benefit you in some way. And Liam is looking at Donald like, no, I'm just interested in your land. Like, if anything, you're not going to benefit me in any way. Like, I don't think that you're going to help me. And I'm just getting to you for your land. And obviously, we could just sniff that out. We could take a big old whiff um, of that out. So, Donald, after that whole thing is said and done, it seems that he's going along with the whole selling of his land thing, because what else is he going to do? Like, he sold all of his livestock. He doesn't want to farm anymore. So, really, he's just kind of left with, like, well, I guess I should probably go on and I should sell this land. Because what is he going to use it for? So, and I think by the end of the film, they end up selling the land, I think, by the end of the movie. But we cut to then Donald, who's in the computer class, and they start talking about web pages and all these other things. And we then cut to Donald outside this computer class and is looking at the picture of Courtney, or Kim eventually. So Donald goes on and he calls Courtney, and it seems that they were going to go on and set up this appointment together, but Kim never shows. At some point, Donald ends up getting frustrated here and yells obscenities because, again, he was hoping that he could be comforted by this girl because, again, his day was shit. So, probably shouldn't be cussing as much as I am, but whatever. It doesn't really matter now, does it? So, I've gone too far. Anyways, so now we have Donald that makes his way to Kim's place. And there's guys coming out of her place. Kim is to follow up. Donald makes his way to Kim, and Kim thinks like, "Oh, who are you?" Kim is kind of scared at this point, and it's like, "Oh yeah, you remember me, Donald? I was one of your clients. Like I was just trying to figure out like what was going on." And so Kim, as I say, it's like, well, yeah, my agency, like they kind of destroyed my place, and so the two of them go in there, and yeah, they really kind of beat the out of this place. So Donald goes on and tells Kim, like, okay, like, well, like it really seems like you're a person that needs a beer. How about you come with me? Like we'll just get you a beer, and you'll just kind of decompress for this whole thing, because like Kim was also kind of willing to have Donald kind of like stay in her place for a little bit because she was kind of scared of those guys anyways. So he's like, well, hey, how about you come to my place? Like, if anything, like if you're kind of really scared of those guys, you can just kind of come to my place, and I can just kind of we can just kind of be here, and you'll be safe. So Kim takes Donald on the offer. Like, it doesn't really seem that there's going to be any risky business going on in here. I got to reference that movie for some odd reason. So, so Kim goes to find out that Donald is setting up the bed of Donald's father's room to be like, hey, you can just sleep here. And Kim is like, well, didn't your father die here? It's like, not in the bed. He died in the chair on the stairs. Like, yeah, like he didn't die on the bed. Or maybe he was about to die in the bed. Maybe he got to this. I don't know. Like, either way, he kind of ended up not on the bed either way. So Kim is like, well, how about I go on and how about I go on to your bed and we just sleep there? And Donald's like, well, the bed is kind of small. And she's like, I don't care. Like, I'll just sleep in this bed and we'll just kind of we'll just be close together. So the two of them get into bed, and it seems that Donald is just having problems sleeping because this girl is in his bed. And he talks about how, like, if somebody's watching him, it's kind of very uncomfortable for him to try and sleep. But she's not really watching him. She's not really she's just kind of turned to the bed and she doesn't really give a fuck. But Donald can't sleep. And so Kim is like, well, you know, how about this? Like, how about you go on and how about you just spoon me, and maybe this will like help you sleep. So the two of them get a little spooning action going on, and we come to find that Donald has a whiffy stiffy. Kim goes on and is like, well, hey, how about we rub one out, or how about I give you a little hand down there, and maybe we can kind of get this to go away, let's just say. And it does. We cut to the next morning. So Donald tries to do the nice thing and tries to make Kim breakfast in bed. How nice. So, but Kim is a little bit late to the bed and breakfast thing because she's already gone on, or she's a little early on the bed and breakfast thing because she's already gotten her clothes together. She had the bed made, everything, and she's now just kind of looking right at Donald like, hey, me here, like the girl that you like, seeing you. Anyways, so Kim is like, yeah, you've made me breakfast in bed, but I'm already out of bed, so what are we doing here? So he gives it to her on a table. She sits down. She eats the breakfast. So Donald is standing up and is like, hey, how about you sit down somewhere? So Kim goes on and asks Donald, hey, what are you doing today? It seems like he's completely free. So Donald asks what Kim is doing, and it seems that she's going to go on and get her to. She's not going to be able to get her deposit from her place. She's going to go on and start moving out, and she's going to kind of figure out what is next for her life. So Donald's like, "Well, hey, I'll go on and I can help you out," but it seems that Kim is not in a quite at a bit of rush here. So if anything, they're just kind of going on, and they're trying to figure out what else they could really do. The two of them start making their way through the farm, and they just start walking. At some point, Kim is having these really huge boots, and she takes them off because she just can't handle them anymore. The boots are too big for her. So Kim eventually asks Donald where all the animals are, and Donald's like, "Well, I sold them all." Um, so here is where Donald starts asking Kim about the whole agency thing, and inevitably they come to the conclusion it's like, well, hey, like I can go on and I can help you, I can help you out, because Kim is going on like, well, hey, all I need to find is somebody who's not completely broke, and I could kind of work with them as a partner. And Donald is like, well, hey, I'm not exactly broke, but also like I don't know exactly what you really need from me. And basically Donald is going to be her sugar daddy. He's going to be her pimp. Keep that pimp hand strong, Donald. Come on, just keep it strong. So, uh, we furthermore, uh, let me pause here for a second. I'm trying to figure out where to go next. Oh, here is where Donald starts talking about his sex education, where he's to mention about how at one point uh, there was an offering for an animal for him to have sex with, and for him to go on, and if he was going to have that kind of experience, to make sure that he kind of sets things up in a way that the animal um, doesn't hurt him or kick him, and because they assumed that he was probably going to end up just sleeping with those animals. So, or doing some loving with the animals, weirdly, strangely, because that's probably what they thought of this guy. So, next up, we have Donald and we have Kim. There was also with the guy who plays Donald. There was an episode of Black Mirror where he is to be a dad that, or no, a dad or something like that. He's to be a husband that dies, and at some point, like this woman needs to be comforted by her dead husband. So she speaks with him as if like he's to be an AI, and the whole relationship thing is kind of strange, but it's kind of weird or funny to look at that now because we're doing that all the time with like AI people that are pretending to be celebrities and having these actual supposed conversations, and but it's really just this AI voice. So and maybe that whole episode started it all. So yeah, eventually within an episode, like he comes back to her. The woman has a baby. Like before the guy obviously died, they had sex together and inevitably had this child. And by the end of it, like he is to at some point become a robot. Like eventually, the way the whole episode plays out, it's very strange that this girl just pays more and more money for this whole operation thing to expand to where this guy is basically to be a robot by the end of all this because she just throws money at it because she just wants this guy back in her life. And yeah, like the way it all plays out, like at some point he's in the basement and and it's just kind of a strange kind of relationship. But anyways, moving on. So Donald gets in with Kim in the car, and Kim starts talking about how she's going to probably get on this bus to London, and that she's going to ask him for like $1,000 and she'll pay him back. And here's where Donald is just like, well, like, so, like, are you just asking for money from me? So, because he's assuming that she's going to leave him and he'll never see her again. And she's like, no, I'll pay you back. And then all of a sudden, Kim ends up getting this phone call. She ends up having this client, and so Kim ends up telling Donald, "Hey, remember this number," and so he does. So we get back to uh, we get back to Donald and or we get back to Kim's place. So they start cleaning it up, and as Donald starts cleaning it up, Kim all of a sudden goes to this one room and notices that there's a present for her. Donald was to go on and give her $300 and just kind of give her this present. Or whatever he kind of gives her is just a present. Kim goes on and is to hug Donald, and like if there was some kind of argument going on, like it's kind of been resolved. It's like, oh, you were nice to me, like you gave me this money, or as much as you could give me. So Donald just tells her it's a present, and if anything, uh, Kim wants to go on and give him a present also, which is basically just sex. So the two of them are in this bed, and Donald ends up asking Kim if she is to go on and enjoy and get pleasure out of what she does. And Kim goes on and says, like, well, I don't get as much pleasure as I do anymore. Um, or it's just kind of more difficult for her because of how often she's gone on to do this. So we have Donald that goes on and asks him, it's like, well, is that why you want to quit? Like, is it just not enough for you anymore? So, so Kim goes on and asks Donald, it's like, well, hey, were you serious about that whole agency before? 'Cause if you're not serious about it, like, if you're going to push me to do it, then we'll do it. But if you're really not sure about it, then, like, then kind of let me know now. Donald is willing to do it, so they go ahead with it. So they talk about how this place could be like perfect for Kim to get her agency going. There's a bunch of lonely guys. If anything, guys are going to be willing to kind of just drive anywhere to get to these women. So they also talk about how there is to be a monopoly on these kind of bike parts because there is to be certain people that want to go on and find a place that so that way they can blow up their dolls, let's just say. And the guy was making a good chunk of money out of these bicycle parts in this story here. So we now cut to Kim at Donald's place while he's away. Carl is to sneak in to Donald's house and find this secret place that money is there. And he starts taking the money. Kim appears and is asked Carl, like, hey, what are you doing? And Carl's to be taking money. And he explains to Kim, it's like, oh, it's a long-standing relationship that we've had with one another. No, Carl is really going on and taking advantage of this guy, and that's really what it is. That's really what it is. Carl is going to mention how he's like, well, yeah, I'm putting it down in IOU. Yeah, I'm sure you're really going to repay that IOU. So they introduce one another, and so Carl is like, oh yeah, you're that cute slanderous word of escort. So that immediately just says what he thinks about this girl. So Kim ends up asking Carl to go, hey, did you speak to Donald about using this money? And really we just kind of find out that Carl didn't. What if Donald needed this money? Like, what if Donald actually had to do something with it? You don't know what's going on in his life, and just stealing money from him is just not a thing to do. So here's where Donald signs his farm away to Liam, and Liam starts asking Donald, it's like, well, hey, why did you decide to sign away your farm? And Donald's like, well, I just needed to change the scenery, and really it's because he probably needed the money, as well as also he was going to start this whole agency thing. It probably would have costed a lot to start to get up and going. So that's kind of why he's kind of signing away his farm. So we now cut to Donald, who is spraying down Kim. I think he's going on and giving her a spray tan. I assume is what's going on here. Like, maybe he's either spraying her down with tan or he's like oiling her up. I'm not quite sure what's going on with this whole. Maybe he's disinfecting her after she had gone on and just had sex with somebody. I don't know what this is. Could be any number of things. So here is where Kim is talking about getting her chest uplifted. Or she's just wanting to get a chest job. I don't know how many times I've cussed in this video, but then again, I also have to just figure out ways to just not say things. how stupid is that? We'll figure out next time on next review, where I have to kind of tiptoe my way through words and then cuss half the way through them anyways. It's dumb. Anyways, so Kim asked Donald for the money for this, and Donald doesn't understand why, because he feels that Kim looks good. Like, he likes her body. And Kim is just looking at Donald. It's like, well, it would really help the business if I have bigger honkers, if I have bigger of a chest, which I guess could, yeah, I guess, yeah, if you kind of look at the cleavage world of any seemingly environment of entertainment, I guess that makes sense. But whatever. Like, if anything, there's somebody out there for everybody. But still, I guess, like, cleavage and honkers and whatever. You gotta, like, I don't know how many times I've probably gone on to see women that have these big, huge cleavages in the thumbnails. I'm like, oh, so that's what you're trying to do? Like, okay, great. Uh, like, so hey guys, like, this person doesn't really need to go on and be smart or really to be skilled at anything. They just need to just they just need to just, god dang it. Anyways, but what am I doing in half of my thumbnails? What am I doing in a good chunk of my, like, I'm wearing tank tops, or I'm trying to be a little yeah. Um like, I'm trying to have images that are to be appealing and whatever. So how am I different to any of the things that they're doing? Not much of anything. Moving on. So uh so Kim calls an investment, and Donald, because of what Kim feels that she wants, gives into it and has her want to do this whole procedure thing, because it's like, hey, if it's what you want, then, like, I'll support it. So Donald speaks to this website guy, and they're talking about names, they're talking about slogans. What about when perfection isn't enough? And so they kind of think that's kind of to be a weird yeah, that's gonna work, sure. Um, if anything, like, I don't like the weird, like, when you have like uh, a perfume thing where it's like obsession and like I'm sorry, like, a perfume should not go on and have these weird catchphrases and whatever. You should just be spraying the shit out of people, and they should be reacting to this scent, and that's it. Like, you shouldn't go on and have these, like, weird things that you say about it that make no effing sense. It's just spray people with this thing and call it a day. That should be what cologne ads should be. So we cut to Donald. He goes on, he gets dressed, and he goes out to speak with Carl, because Kim had gone on to tell Donald that's like, hey, Carl, like, get rid of him. Like, if anything, Kim doesn't really like Carl anyway, so it's like, yeah, figure out a way to get rid of him. Because if anything, we're going to start this agency. Like, I don't want him to be here, and figure out a way to get rid of him. So Donald meets up with Carl, who's on this RV, and Donald tries to mention it this way, where it's like, well, hey, yeah, like, I'm selling this farm. So if anything, Carl, like, if I'm trying to sell this farm, like, if anything, people are not going to find it appealing if you're parked here. Yeah, like, it's not going to be appealing to them. So you should probably get moving. Carl is so upset. He's like, well, hey, man, like I live here, like, so It's like, dude, you're an RV. Like, your living is portable. Like, get your and get out. Like, come on. Like, yeah, like you're an RV. Like, you can live anywhere. So so Carl starts mentioning it's like, oh, is this because Kim has been talking to you lately? Like, man, have you really been changing up your attire since going on and being with her? And like, man, have you kind of changed and been a different guy all of a sudden? Yeah, because Carl, you're a douche. and and uh and Donald is to be like, well, yeah, it makes sense to just kind of get rid of Carl because this guy just keeps mooching on him and just keeps taking his freaking money. So, yeah, this guy needs to learn at some point, right? So, sorry, I don't know. If any, so we turn it around, and Donald comes to Kim and explains that Carl is to now go on and find out about what they're doing. And Donald is to say that, like, hey, yeah, Carl is going to get this job now with us. Like, he's going to be the guy that's going to be dropping these women off and kind of protecting them. So Kim goes on and just kind of agrees to that, even though I'm sure she's probably just like, well, I guess I have to agree to this. Even though really I just don't trust this guy. Which is a great conclusion. So so now we cut to there needs to be a another girl for them to get um besides just Kim here. So Kim says that she's gone to find um another girl that is not as experienced, but if anything, that may be a good thing. They may not go on and have to pay her a lot or something like that, because of how new she is at this. So plus, it's also just kind of better for this girl to kind of learn as they go. So, oh, here is where Kim starts to talk about the couple that she met at this cafe, and how she had gone on to have this be her first time and kind of got her into the business eventually. After these people kind of thought that she was to be this prostitute, when she wasn't. Anyways, so uh, so all of a sudden, the two of them, as they're driving by, they meet up with this cop named Garda, and this sets up this character to meet up with them later, as he's going to go on and he's going to arrest uh, Donald later on. So Donald sees Garda and he starts talking, and and Donald is just kind of very like I don't know what to say to this guy. Um, Donald eventually talks about his father being dead, and Garda gives his condolences. So we now cut to the two of them, both Donald and Kim, going to this cafe. They do this Yui. They meet up with this girl. Uh, I don't really quite exactly know what exactly her name is, so my apologies. I think it's Monica. I could be wrong about that. At some point, Monica goes by this other name. Um, yeah, but like there's some of the credits where I couldn't figure out who people were. At some points because I couldn't really see names and stuff. I was just kind of drawing conclusions at some points. But anyways, pushing on here. So Monica, uh, is to talk about her experiences with Kim and talk about if she's done any stripping or any exhibitions or also she has her take off her clothes to just kind of see like what her body looks like. When Monica does this, it's like, well, hey, I'm not a druggie, I'm not a this, I'm not a that, and Kim's like, no, like I was just kind of just looking at your body. Kim goes on and says that this girl isn't shaved, so it's like, okay, we're gonna get a waxing, we're gonna get the whole workup, and Kim talks about her experiences with her past times of being casting couched by people. So, all right, so let me pause here. So now I'm back at home. Uh, Donald, Carl, and Kim are to be together in the room, and Kim is asking Donald for a foot massage, and Carl is starting to ping on Donald. It's like, well, hey, like technically you're a pimp. Maybe you should go on and be like more assertive. You can't just have her walk all over you. And because at some point Donald notices that Kim has these ingrown hairs and starts picking at it, and then she just starts walking off because she got in pain by one of the pinching of which that Donald does. So we cut to them being at this club and they're sharing drinks, the three of them, and Kim and Donald are, I think, dancing. And Kim looks at this girl. It's like, oh, she's pretty, and Donald's like, oh yeah, I've seen her before. She was the the cashier that I'd spoken to before. So we just gonna have to keep referencing that, even though it's just in the background, which is kind of weird. So the next thing we see is Kim bringing in a client. I'm not quite sure what this guy's name is. So the client is to be brought in, and so Kim mentions to the client that she has her and another woman for this guy to see. So the guy comes in, Kim kind of makes her way out, and Monica is up. So Monica goes out there, and so Monica asks the guy, like, hey, are you interested in me or are you interested in her? Like, which one are you interested in? And the guy says, like, well, hey, I'm more interested in the other girl, but if anything, I like your dress though. So they change up dresses, and Kim goes out there. Uh, Kim was to also go on and tell the girl, it's like, well, hey, he's more nervous than you are, but if anything, sadly, she didn't go on and do that client. So next we cut here. Uh, Here is where Kim makes it into bed with Donald, and Kim is asking about them making love, or in this case, I guess having some loving. So Kim is like, really, like I had just gone on and had this really long day. Like, if anything, you're gonna have to do without. And Donald is just kind of upset with that. Also, Kim is referencing also like Pretty Woman here, and it's not gonna be the same situation. Like Donald is never gonna whisk her away and have this happy ending. So Donald is kind of very much like upset about that. But if anything, also Kim is to kind of really understand what Donald is to just be thinking. And so the next thing we see is Donald going to that cashier of which that he likes so much, Melanie. He buys something through the register and then decides that he's going to come back and buy this thing of wine. Donald just randomly picks up the wine, and then he realizes how very expensive it is. And Donald says, like, well, hey, you know what would make this wine a lot better? If you and me share it. If you and I would go on and drink this wine. But the weird thing it is, Donald goes on with Melanie to make their way to this, like, restaurant or whatever. They go out somewhere. They don't go to his place to share this wine. So I don't quite understand why Donald even got this. I guess it was just a way for them to start this conversation together. So Donald is taking Kim to go to her procedure. She's going to go onto this bus. So Donald is telling Kim about, like, well, hey, fast the whole time. Um, like, hey, when you come back, you be a new woman. Kim is going on and talking about them calling one another. So we now cut to Donald. Donald's at this restaurant again. How does the wine come in? I guess he figures out a way to just kind of like, oh, let's just go to this restaurant. So the two of them go on to this restaurant, and both Melanie and Donald starts talking, and he starts talking about this whole 10-year plan, and Donald starts talking to Melanie about, like, well, hey, what are you going to do with your life? I'm sure you're not going to just be a cashier for the rest of your life, right? Like, what do you want to do? And Melanie's like, well, yeah, I thought I'd be married by now. I thought I'd have a couple of kids, and like, isn't that always nice? Like, I'm sure a lot of people, like me included, would probably go on to be like, yeah, I didn't think that this is where my life would be going. Like, I thought I'd be this by now. I thought I'd be doing that by now. I thought I'd be doing all these other things by now. But like, we really just start to find out about how short life really is. That like, we think that we'll always have time to get something, and we probably won't, or we probably never will. And yeah, like, things just slip away from us, or just uh we think that, like, just things will go the way we want it to, right? And it just won't happen that way, which is fine. So Donald ends up getting a phone call from Kim, and he hangs up. So later on, the two of them are getting intimate, and the phone rings again. And Melanie's like, "Man, like, you're really having somebody call you a lot." And Donald's like, "Well, yeah, it's a family member of mine that doesn't know the time difference." So Kim is on the phone, and since she cannot get Donald, she just leaves a message. She kind of apologizes to him and is to kind of, in such a nice way, like not be upset about him not calling her or answering the phone. Really, she's to just kind of understand that, like, well, hey, yeah, like I'm sure you were upset last night about me kind of leaving you without. So, uh, so at some point, Donald does go on and listen to this message, and he's like, oh, she was nice. Like, oh, I didn't give her the freaking time or date, Donald. Why didn't you give Kim the time or date? You should have freaking answered her call. So, because Donald goes on, and after being with the whole night with Emily, he basically sleeps with her. And as the two of them are having their time, uh, Donald like shifts Melanie's body, and she's like, "Why are you doing that?" And he's like, "Oh, you don't want to go on and like you don't want to see me?" And she's like, "No, I want to see you." And he's like, "Oh, okay then." So the two of them start kissing, and so the next thing we see is Kim getting off the bus, and Carl's there. Carl, hey, the guy that you hate, Carl. Hi, me, ding, ding, ding. Over here to pick you up because I'm such a nice guy. But I'm the guy that you hate. Remember me, Carl? Anyways, I've really done that joke to drive him to the ground, and it's not funny anymore. It never was, but anyways. Uh, so Donald gets up, hears the message, makes his way to Melanie, who's in the shower, and explains to her, it's like, well, hey, I'm going to give you a cab. Uh, like, I really got to go somewhere. And so he leaves her. Uh, so Kim and Carl, they're going to go to the, like, the hotel rooms. They're going to go there because Carl is saying that, oh, yeah, we're going to go there instead of um, Donald's home. And Kim is like, well, why? Like, why are we going to this place? And with Kim not being trusting of this Carl guy, the more that Carl is also starting to hide what Donald is doing from her, it's like, well, hey, why aren't you telling me? Why aren't you telling me what Donald is doing? And Carl's like, well, I can't tell you. He promised me. He said that I shouldn't tell you. So but Carl goes on and is to like say to Kim, it's like, oh, so you got fake knockers, huh? Like, I like to see those. And Kim is like, well, yeah, they're kind of bruised right now. It's like, well, yeah, if you've ever seen any plastic surgery show, yeah, like there is some time of which that like obviously like the chest is a little bit bruised. If anything, I'm sure it's very sensitive. Any number of things. I've seen so many of these kind of plastic surgery shows, and I'm so weird about it. Like I'd gone on to see quite a bit of Nip Tuck and other kinds of like plastic surgery things and whatever what have you. And yeah, like it's always kind of interesting to kind of see the people that talk about why they're doing it, or what happens to them during the whole like procedure of things, and it's always just kind of like Nip Tuck was actually really interesting because it had like a story also around like the whole plastic surgery thing, so it's kind of interesting, I feel. Plus, it also had certain scenes of certain kinds. Moving on, so once Carl sees Kim as she removes her top to show off her newly chested part of her, uh, Carl is to then go on and I think kind of whip down his pants and start to toss one off. And Kim is like, well, okay, so now tell me what Donald is doing. And like the more that things are going on here, and Carl is so tight-lipped, Kim is assuming it's like, well, hey, like I also had just gotten a procedure done on my nethers, so I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to fully commit to like sleeping with Carl. And Carl is like, well, but you can go on and you can blow me. And like it seems that they were escalating to that, but then by the time that Donald gets there, it's like, okay, so was that happening? Was it not like was that all said and done with? Like what? Because at some point, Kim does say that she found out from Carl what Donald was doing, so she had to have gone on and done what she was to do to get that from him, right? It would have to be that case. So Donald goes on to get into his hotel room, and that's where he sees Carl and he sees Kim. Uh Immediately he goes on and calls her all kinds of names. Basically, he's like, "Hey, like that was my best friend. How could you have done that to me? How much betrayal!" But Kim goes on as like, "Betrayal? Like you were with Melanie? Like you betrayed me?" And like the whole thing of it is just like what betrayal meant more, because I think at some point also Donald was to ask Kim like if she was ever going to retire from doing this business because she was going to go into management, right? And Donald, I think, does go on and say it's like, well, hey, since you and I are kind of together, like, aren't you going to kind of give up doing this whole business thing because you're going into management, right? And Kim is like, and here's where she throws into the whole like Pretty Woman thing of like, well, hey, you aren't gonna whisk me away and flowers and what have you, and it's all gonna be a happy ending. So yeah, so because Kim is going on and talking about how she's like 6 months away from retiring, so she's not gonna give that up. If she can get as much money as she can, she's going to. So they talk. So the two of them they talk about jealousy, and Donald is like, well, hey, yeah, I finally went out with a real girl instead of just going out with you. And Cam is like, well, hey, I'm a real girl. So, and Donald's like, well, yeah, like I paid for you. Like I paid, like, I guess with the whole like plastic surgery thing, like, yeah, he technically paid for that, but like, come on, like, I think that's kind of like horrible to bring up. Um, like maybe he was going on and the whole paid for her thing was like, well, yeah, he he paid for her in the past. Like I don't think the whole procedure now is like him paying for her. But maybe still we can kind of use that as kind of a throwing it in her face thing still. But come on. Uh, anyways, so here's where Donald is saying that he's splitting with Kim. He's gonna go on and take these girls and kind of go on to his doing his own business. And Kim is like, "You can't do this without me. Like, my influence. Like you're not gonna make it as far without me. Like, so all this is to kind of blow up here." And shortly thereafter that, there's Liam and there's this other lady with Liam. So Donald tells Carl, like, hey, get all the girls and get them all in the room and just try to hide everybody. Donald answers the door and is hoping that Liam is going to make his way through this place. So Liam comes up with every excuse to just try to get through into the room so he can kind of look around to see what they're doing. Because if he knows that they're going on and they're doing this whole risky business, let's just say, that um, that he is going to go on and need to boot them out, as well as also he's like, hey man, like if anybody finds out that this is going on here, like the law will get involved. But if anything, Liam is going to cut that quick, right to the quick, because Liam is going to go on and find a way for the cops uh, to go after Donald and arrest him. So, because that's pretty much what happens next here. Um, because Donald will start talking to Liam about the whole like selling of land and how he's wanting to negotiate their contract and so like I think Liam was like, yeah, I'm gonna get you freaking arrested because I'm gonna sell your land, and if you're in prison there's not much you can do. So Donald gets everybody and like tells them to kind of get out of here, to basically just start um, to shift into other locations. So I think uh, Donald ends up doing certain clients in his actual home uh, for the time being. And a guy is kind of getting rubbed down by this one girl in his own home, and we then cut to Donald, who's seeing a picture of Courtney. So, and it's kind of one of her profile pictures. So, I'm a little confused here. So, Donald is not home, and Garda, who's to be the police officer, comes to Donald's place and is to be calling from. Like, hey, I need to speak with him. And Carl's like, well, hey, he's not here. Like, do you have anything that would justify you needing to try and find him? And Garda's like, well, yeah, I have a warrant for his arrest. So it's like, oh, okay, all right. So the women are all start to just throw their clothes on, and they realize that this cop guy is coming for all these people. So as Donald drives up to his home, he realizes that there's a cop there. So he's like, oh. So as Donald tries to drive away, Garda's like, oh, 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 no, 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 no. Like, he catches him, he arrests him, and they go to court. So so Donald goes to court, and he's to kind of be held in prison. He's to have to pay 1,500 euros to kind of get released from prison. And after the whole court, and he leaves, he ends up talking to Melanie. Melanie is to ask Donald if she should be getting checked for anything. And Donald's like, well, I didn't get checked for anything. I don't know what you're talking about. So after that, like, Melanie is to just go on and just leave Donald without really much of anything but of being upset with him and wants nothing to do with him. And so Donald then goes on to be in a car with his relative Rosemary. Rosemary is telling Donald that he should basically throw Kim under the bus and say whatever he needs to, so that way he, like, hey, you have your life ahead of you. Like, yeah, throw this girl under the bus. Like, say whatever you need to. Uh, like, basically tell them that your dad had just passed and you were lonely, and say that this girl kind of took advantage of you because that's really what she did, right? Like, say all that. Like, say that to the courts. So, so Donald is getting manipulated by Rosemary, in which that he barely knows her, uh, or really is to kind of probably not have his best interest at heart. So Rosemary's going and speaking, or Rosemary is with these kind of, I think, these lawyers or these certain people, and they're talking here, and they're talking about their strategies, and they're talking about how they can pin this all on this floozy, and so Carl comes in. It's like, oh yeah, we could probably use Carl because he can be witness to a lot of this. Like, they can use him in the court, and Donald takes Carl, talks with him outside, and it basically tells Carl to f off because he hates this guy at this point. Plus, also, what Carl just forced him to do was kind of unforgivable, and so yeah, it's like, get freaking rid of that guy. So we now cut to Donald in the courts, and it seems that we see Kim at the stand. She's going on and giving her statement, and Kim not at all is going on and throwing Donald under the bus here. She's just being honest. talking about the present that he gave her, the $300, because that's all he had. Like, going through everything very honestly. And you can kind of see tears in Kim's eyes. She's very emotional about all this. So, Donald is, at this point, is to start to tear away papers. And I think through the papers, we could assess or assume, we can't read what the papers are. Donald may go on to probably be pleading guilty here. And Donald is handing a piece of paper to the other lawyer to get Donald on the stand. So Donald takes the stand, and we see him start to talk, and then they cut to him going to prison. So you also see the house is now sold, and I think Carl is like is he still living there, or is he like getting his and getting out of there? Anyways, Donald is now at the prison, and he has these kind of provocative, erotic pictures next to his bed. So Donald is have some visiting time, and so he makes his way to these tables to talk to Kim. So Kim is asking Donald, it's like, well, hey, when is it you're going to get released? And he's like, February, January, somewhere in there. Maybe he'll get off early for good behavior. So Kim is going on and asking, like, well, hey, this isn't going to be easy for us because we are a couple. It's like, oh, so yeah. So, like, they've worked it out. Like, okay, like, they are going to be together. And so Kim also says that there's more than life than just sex. And if anything, Kim asked Donald if they've ever kissed before. And Donald's like, no, we've never kissed. And like, well, should we do it now? And it seems that that's going to happen. And then they cut to credits. Ah, come on. Let's see them locking lips. God dang it. Like I was like, yeah, like they worked it out by the end. Like they're gonna be together. Like I like that happy ending. Like yeah, like I when like Donald was hoping that things were gonna work out with Kim, but like Kim really didn't give Donald like the hint that that they were going to really end up together. Like at some point, like it was kind of weird, the relationship. Like Kim wanted at some points for Donald to treat her like a girlfriend, but then also Kim was to just be like, but I'm not really going to end up with you. So that's just kind of strange. Like, because she's going on and she's saying that, like, well, yeah, like, the two of us aren't really going to end up together. Like, there's this kind of back and forth of, like, is it a business? Is it a relationship? What is this? Like, if they would have gone on and at some point, like, especially when they were arguing, and Kim just did that thing with Carl, and Kim was mentioning, it's like, well, hey, I'm a woman too. Then I think Donald should have finally just said, well, I didn't know if we were actually a thing. Like, can we finally say now? Can we confirm it? Put pen to goddamn paper that we're a thing, that we're in a relationship, that through thick and thin, like, can we finally say that we're a relationship? Because Donald was so unsure. Because it seems that it was just so convenient for Kim to just say, it's like, well, you're my partner, you're my business partner. Like, I'm using you because this is all convenient. And then Donald is just like, well, I guess that's what it is. So, like, and Donald is actually going on and looking at Melanie. It's like, okay, I'll go on and I'll just seek this girl out because, like, I don't really know what's going on. Like, because Donald was kind of hinting that they were going to just have a real thing going. They're going steady or something. And Kim is just like, no, I'm seeing this as a business whole thing. But then when Kim goes on and goes to the whole plastic surgery and wants Donald to call her and leaves that message, and then it's to be upset that Donald wasn't there for her, and da 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 da. Yeah, like, it's just like, what do you want, woman? like it's either one or the other. Like, that's the whole thing when you kind of get so upset when you are to hope that something is going to work out with somebody and then you get ghosted, freaking nothing ever really happens. It's like, man, I took all this time to invest in this thing that just went nowhere. But also, it's like, well, maybe it was just me. Maybe that was my fault. Maybe I didn't know what I was doing at that time. Any number of things could just be spiraling out of that. To where, like, you don't like that place that you're in. But yeah, but like, in this whole situation, like, there was more gray area than anything else. So, because Donald was completely for them having a relationship, and it kind of feels like Kim was kind of fighting it in a way. Am I wrong about that? Uh, like, it kind of feels like Kim was probably only going to go on and really want to settle down after her 6 months and she could retire and go into management or whatever. And then she was probably going to see that that Donald was probably the one for her. Or maybe within this whole prison sentence thing, maybe so much time has passed and maybe Kim is at a point of retiring and that's when she's going on and saying to Donald, it's like, well, hey, we're going to make this work now because I'm retiring and I'm going to settle down with you. And like, you didn't go on and, and throw me under the bus like you could have. And so we're going to make this work. Um, so did any of this make any sense? Was any of this worth talking about? Probably not. But I said it anyways. So this is gonna get uploaded. I guess, like, there's a lot of times where I go on and I do these reviews and I'm just like, why did I do this? There's a lot of times where I feel like I make a large amount of mistakes when doing these reviews. But anyways, plus I didn't go on and I didn't say any of this stuff, like how I felt about it, until the very end of it, which is kind of a big mistake there. But yeah, like it is kind of true for the story of just like, and I should have said this in the beginning of this here, but like I don't think people care about the story. I think people just need a brief description of what this movie is or how I felt about it. Uh, I probably didn't even grade this movie either. I say that it'll be a strong okay. This movie. God, I probably should have said that at the beginning. Oh well, it's too late now. Um, I think I said at one point I've seen this movie more than once, so I think that tells people that I liked it enough to watch it again. I probably said that somewhere in there, but I said so much stuff now that I have no idea what I said. Eventually, my mind just kind of becomes a blender, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but at least I've said it here at this point now. So, yeah, so how I felt overall about this movie is like it was really like the whole like breakdown of it all, the whole like how things were going to explode, and how also it just kind of felt like these characters were meant for one another, as Kim was so happy that Donald was to kind of treat her right, and Donald was kind of happy that, well, to a certain extent, that Kim was willing to do these things and be with him, and even to the point to where she's even willing to give him a good old handy. And so Kim then goes on to kind of have a bit of pushback at the later half of this movie, and that just drives Donald to be like, well, like I've invested so much in this person at this point that how is it that she doesn't see how much I've invested in her and how much I care about her, and yet she's still kind of pushing away. She's still just saying like, well, hey, yeah, you're my pimp, um you're my partner. And so Donald just didn't know where he stood with Kim by the end of this movie, or by um like he didn't know where he stood with her. So at some point he was just like, well, like if all I am is just her partner, then I'm going to freaking get to go and experience something that I haven't seemingly been able to experience yet, or lately. Getting a little bit of that strange. Um, and then, like, figure out the whole Kim thing later. And then when that explodes, just be like, oh, well, yeah, well, where were you? It's like, what are you talking about? And then finally Donald was to be like, oh, so this is a relationship? This is, because he was asking for that, and she was pulling away from it. So that's what this movie just kind of becomes. The whole like in and out. You want to do more of the old in and out? It's like it's either you're in or it's either you're out. There's no gray area. There's no black and white. Like, if you're to go on and let this guy inside of you, then how about you go on and let the guy in on whether or not you're really to go on and and want to have him in on your life. And then by the end of this, they're like, because Kim in this movie is to talk about how she like has very rarely had relationships, and she's really rarely had a boyfriend. And then by the end of the film, like Kim is like, well, should we kiss? Like, should like this is we're gonna be a couple. And so yes, you can kind of tell that like Kim is not experienced in the whole like her having a relationship thing. So, and then Donald, of course, is hasn't been with a woman at all, besides really Kim and then Melanie. But yeah, so like when they're cementing, like, yeah, we're a couple, we're gonna kiss, like that is like okay, because they have to kind of really explain that to one another to be sure that this is going somewhere. Um, because neither one of them have had this experience, so like they're going to confirm it all. Yeah, let's get the F out of here, because the more I go on and explain this, I also feel like I'm getting nowhere. Um, or I feel like I'm gonna just stretch this out more. I'm like, yeah, let's break this down more. Um, yeah, so God dang it, I should have said this probably at some earlier part of this, and I'm not gonna. There's not gonna be any editing going on. I'm not gonna go back and start this thing all over again, or just edit a small piece in the beginning of the video, even though it would probably have been better off than the robotic things that I went about all this. Uh, but anything, I thought about it after the fact. F it, like no one's gonna probably care about the later half of this video. But but yeah, like I found this story to be interesting. I'd go on to find stuff like the movie Escort that I think has this kind of same similar line of the guy going on and meeting with the escort girl, but then it comes out to end up being more than that. Like there's probably so much of these movies that I'm kind of glazing over now that I'm like, oh yeah, I guess this movie's kind of similar to that. I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Goodbye, buddy. Goodbye, everybody. So I can upload this. I don't think I'm gonna be able to go on and squeak out another project because I feel like I gotta get to bed early. I spent all my time on this day on this project. Really, that's what happens when I go on and I try to do these videos. I probably should try to go on and try to squeak another project out but I have I have a certain thing that I need to be up for by a certain time tomorrow. So I think I want to go on and I probably want to just put this out as one project. So thank you guys all for going on and maybe watching this. If this does well, I can probably figure out why. Um, honestly, if this does well, I appreciate people going on and watching this. Even though a lot of people will probably say that this video is too long, and I would just go on and tell them that really you're probably complaining about the length of this because I'm probably the only one that is reviewing it, right? That's probably the reason why you're complaining about it. Also, I don't care. I don't care about the length. I wish this video was longer. The only thing that it hurts is me. It doesn't hurt anyone else. If anything, like I've kind of set up in every one of these videos, that you always have a time to jump off. I give you that opportunity. Plus, I also like there's a lot of times where I just f around anyways in these videos, because at some points I just am to just be like, yeah, nobody's gonna watch after this certain point, because look at the average view time. But anyways, I'm gonna be out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.